All right, welcome back to Common Sense Conversations. I'm Eric.
I'm Matt.
And we're excited to be with you today. Matt, I wanted to share with you a quick story that I think ties in a lot to what we do. So my wife has been diligent. We have this garden. We actually have two garden plots, one for the kids and one for us, right? And so they're just going gangbuster trying to grow all these vegetables and everything. Well, at the same time, so she's outside doing all this stuff, and she's getting very frustrated because the grass keeps dying. And she's out there every day watering, and just really trying to take care of it. We fertilized, we're doing all these things, and these dead patches keep coming up. Doesn't matter what we do, how many times we water. I've been out checking the sprinkler systems, and each sprinkler head. Okay, is that really getting it, and things like that. And it's been really frustrating for her. And come to find out, you might already know this. A lot of people who have lawns might already know this, that we have grubs, right? Yep. So I was digging down and found some grubs, and I was like, okay, we got to take care of these. The thing that I think is interesting is that grubs, you never see them. There's no indication other than the grass is dead, right? The grass is dying. So there's nothing you can do to prevent it until you see the damage, right?
Sure.
It's there, and there's no way for you to know that they're there until they've already done their work. And so obviously I went out and got some grub control, and now we're working on taking care of that. But I thought, how applicable is that to what we do in terms of there are so many people that, we're doing all these things that we think, okay, I'm watering, I'm fertilizing, I'm mowing the grass, there's plenty of sun, all these things are right, and everything should be, the stars should be aligning here. Why aren't they? What's going on? Why aren't I making it ahead in life, right? And we see so many examples of that in today's economy, in financially, obviously, there's a lot of things that people want to do to get ahead and just aren't. And so I'm excited to discuss how we can help people find the grubs that exist in their lives.
That's interesting. There was a workshop I attended, or maybe more of a seminar, but one of the topics, the main theme, if you will, was to focus on the seen and the unseen. And in a very real way, the grubs are unseen. Now, if it's the grubs that we've had in the past, and they're all over the place up here, those grubs turn into June bugs, right? And this time of the year, the June bugs come out all the time. Those June bugs come out all the time, and we see them flying around at night, not knowing exactly where they come from. They just seem to materialize out of nothing, right? And then you realize, oh, them naughty little grubs that are eating my grass roots turns into them big old beetles flying around. And in that seminar, we'd focus on the things that are seen and things that are not seen. And when we analyze somebody's financial situation, we try to help them see what they are not seeing, because it's not spelled out clearly in front of them, just not something that's obvious. Or oftentimes we're not seeing something because we're not watching historical trends, or we're not watching economic trends, or we're not looking far enough into the future to see the consequences of something, right? I think that ties in really well with an article that I read this last week. I've got to think of the title here really quick. Let me go back to my notes. The title was "Most Workers Wait Years for a Company's 401k Match to Become Their Money." And I think that title, I look at that and I say, well, yeah, of course.
There's a vesting schedule.
Yeah. And you and I know that the match doesn't belong to that person. But a lot of people putting money into those accounts, they look at the total they have on their 401k and they think all of that is theirs. And what they don't see might be the vesting schedule, little grub underneath that is chewing away at some of that, or maybe future tax rates, the grub underneath that's chewing away at the foundation of that. And so a person at any given moment might look at a 401k account value and say, well, realistically, 70% of that is mine. Depending on how I take it and when I take it, maybe 60% of that is mine, right? And that's one of those things that we don't know what we don't know until we dig down into it and get into the nitty gritty dirty of it and see the grubs?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was talking to a number of business owners this week who, you know, just are not. In fact, so one guy, he owns a lawnmower shop, right? And you know, he usually has lots of different lawnmowers. Somebody's in trouble.
The guy owns a lawnmower shop. That's where you need to start.
Okay. All right, so talking to a lot of business owners, and this guy owns this lawnmower shop, right? And he and we were just talking about things and about where he's at, and he's like, you know what? I'm just not worried about doing business at this moment because there's no inventory. He's like, you know, what's a lawnmower guy who doesn't have any lawnmowers to sell, right? What does the lawnmower shop do when he doesn't have any lawnmowers to sell? And his in talking with him, you know, he made the point that what a lot of people don't realize is that what COVID did was it affected all these supply chains. You know, back you know a year and a half ago, all these people couldn't work, and and a lot of people don't realize that all of that affects things 18 months into the future, right? And so, you know, 18 months from now, right now we look at the economy and we say, hey, everything's up and going again, right? Prices should come back down and all this stuff. Well, we have to wait for those initial processes, initial manufacturing and all those things that happen first to catch up. And, you know, 18 months from now, we should see an economy that, based on where we're at right now, that's booming, right? But we have to wait for that. And so I think that a lot of times we need to financially, we need to set the stage now to prepare for, we need to get rid of the grubs. Because I'm going to, you know, put down the grub stuff tonight, but I'm not going to see the changes until, you know, a month or two down the road. And so we need to set the stage now if we want to prepare or we want to experience success, you know, in the future.
You know, isn't there a preventive measure that can be taken against those things?
Yeah, so there are, you know, against grubs.
Or financial storms.
Yeah. So I've been researching it a little bit. There's this article, I want to say University of Michigan. They did an extensive research. And yeah, so you can't, like, for example, there's this time in the spring and the fall when they're active. And so they have this product called 24-hour, you know, kill the grubs, and they sell it year round, right? And so you think, oh man, okay, so, you know, now it's June, right? We're doing this this video in June, and so you think, okay, I'm going to put this down, and it's going to kill the grubs in 24 hours. Well, not according to the study. They're not active in June, right? They're not incredibly active. They're active in spring and fall, and so if you put that 24-hour stuff down, it's not going to do a thing in June.
See the beetles in June, which is probably why they're called June bugs.
Yeah.
But the grubs are really active the month before.
Yeah, yeah. And so you put down, so right now what you do is you put down this season-long stuff.
Sure.
That kills them now so that you see the results in fall, right? But they sell this stuff year-round. And so if you were not prepared, if you didn't do the research and you just go into the store and you say, oh, look, here's a product and here's a product. Oh, look, 24 hours, I'm going to buy it and throw it on, right? And it's not going to do a thing. And same with the season-long stuff. If you put that stuff down in spring, it's not going to do a thing because it's not. Basically, what this article said was that it's going to dilute into the soil, and it's not going to be strong enough by the time that they're ready to consume it or, you know, whatever they do, right? And so you have to know which product, which step to take at the time that it's right to take it.
So when COVID hit, it wasn't just the virus coming to America, but when Congress passed legislation to close down the economy for a 2 or 3 week time period to slow the spread, I think that a lot of people were surprised, a lot of businesses were surprised, manufacturing, the employees, and a lot of them weren't prepared financially for that. I was talking to a colleague of mine about unions, and that oftentimes a large company has to deal with union negotiations. And so there might be for a short period of time, relatively short usually, business slows down, manufacturing slows down because there are discussions to increase benefits for the workers, right? But the difference is the business owner probably knew ahead of time that that's only going to last this long. And eventually, if I meet their demands, if I have to wait that long, I can't wait any longer, I have to meet their demands, but it's only going to last this long. And they probably had some heads up that it was going to happen, but it was something they were kind of in control of to a certain degree, right? But in this case, business stopped, completely halted, because the government said stop, right? And businesses weren't prepared for that. There was no way to prepare. Well, no way to anticipate it, certainly a way to prepare. If you know that the grubs are in the ground, then everybody in the area can prepare for it. And then it doesn't impact that lawn as much, right? And the people who prepared for something were better prepared, and they certainly weathered that storm better. One of my favorite podcasts going back years was by a business owner named Carlos Lara and a business partner of his named Robert Murphy. If any of you are into Austrian economics, you'll recognize the name Bob Murphy. They put together a video as part of a podcast that they have together entitled How to Weather the Coming Storms, where they just talk in general terms about struggles, calamities, hurdles, things that are going to impact the economy and a person's personal finances. They never, I don't think that anybody thought that a virus was going to do what it did, right?
Yeah.
But how to weather those coming storms is an important topic that we all should be talking about in the industry. And so if there are things we can do to prepare for something like, in fact, I think I've mentioned this before, I have some family members and friends who are preparing for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
I kind of see there, I mentioned that.
Yeah.
And I've always thought it was kind of funny when people talk about that, because I don't believe that zombies are ever going to become a thing.
You know, I read once that it's very possible. This one scientific journal basically analyzed that and said, you know, could this possibly happen? And so they went through all these different. Anyway, that's taking us way off base. But
way off base.
I thought that was interesting. It's something that's possible, but you know,
not probable.
Not probable.
So anyway, and their response to me made 100% sense. So I have no problem preparing for the zombie apocalypse now because I see it through a different lens. If a person is legitimately prepared for the zombie apocalypse, like what we see in the movies and whatnot, then they are probably prepared to handle anything that comes along, right?
That's true.
So if they were prepared for zombies, they probably weathered this last storm pretty well, right?
Oh, I'd imagine.
And the future storms that are coming economically or because of an illness or because of a supply shortage or whatever it might be, like think back to what happened with certain supply chains when a ship got stuck in the Suez Canal, right? That caused tremendous problems in a very narrow number of people, narrow spread of businesses, if you will. But if something happened to the Suez Canal itself, well, I guess it did. It was blocked for like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a problem. But if we're ready for the zombies, then I guess we're ready for anything. That's the lesson, that's the takeaway. If you're ready for zombies, you're probably ready for the grubs. You eat them. You come up with
right.
recipes for grub soup
man.
And grubs and noodles.
I was taking the wrong approach here.
Yeah, there's
I should
more
be
you can
digging
do with
them up.
that. When life gives you lemons,
You eat grubs.
you eat grubs. That's right. Let me mention a couple other of these stories that back to how important it is to know more than you do, but to try to look for those situations where you might not know what you don't know and ask a professional who might know more, right? One of the other stories that I found, as I just read through stories this last week, one of them is entitled Social Security Checks on Track for the Biggest Annual Boost Since 2009. Hallelujah, thank heavens. The average Social Security recipient receives $1,347, something like that. That data might be a couple years old, but it's pretty close to that
It's
still.
pretty close, yeah.
And every year in October, a cost of living adjustment or a COLA increase is announced. Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's 1%, maybe 2%. The last few years it's been less than 2, 1.5, 1.7, something like that. This article suggests that the cost of living increase could be as high as 4.5, maybe as high as 5% this year. And that gets a lot of people excited. You and I both work with Medicare recipients. You right now, currently, I've worked with them for years and years, and not so much anymore. If you need help with Medicare, he's the guy to talk to. He's more up to date on the various plans available in the area than I am. But the point that is consistent here is that Medicare costs money. People pay a premium for Part B of Medicare specifically, but also the other parts of Medicare that they might pay for, right? Other benefit plans, insurance plans. So when it comes to Part B of Medicare, what a lot of people fail to realize is that premium will increase. Not every year, and people don't always know why it increases some years and doesn't increase other years. There's a correlation between the cost of living increase and the Part B Medicare increase, and a lot of folks don't know that. So this article says, hip hip hooray, we might see a 4 to 4.5% increase this year in cost of living. The government, on the other hand, might be saying, hip hip hooray, if we provide a 4% cost of living increase, we get to increase the cost for the Part B premium of Medicare, right? And it might be a net zero or negative. Some years it has been negative. When a person gets a 1.4% increase on their, what is 1.4% of $1,300? Do that math real quick for us, if you would, Eric. It ain't a whole lot of money. When the premium for Medicare goes from $140 a month to $147 a month, or it's, what is it sitting at right now? Do you recall?
The what was?
Part B premium. Not that it matters a lot for this podcast. I'm curious. We'll look it up later.
I just went blank.
That's fine.
148.
148 now? Okay.
Yes.
So if it's 148 now.
You said 1.14?
The increase?
Yeah.
No, 4.5 at $1,300.
4.5. 4. So $63 of $1,400. Yeah.
Okay. So if the average recipient might receive an increase of $60 to $70 a month, and then we have to ask ourselves, over the last year, has the cost of goods and services gone up by more than $60 to $70 a month?
Absolutely.
I would say
there's no
so.
question, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Another article I found this last week entitled U.S. Inflation Sees Biggest Surge in Nearly 13 Years. Oh, by the way, one of these previous articles talking about the increase on Social Security, I think it was, the person put in quotes the alleged inflation for the year, talks of alleged inflation coming for this year. And then this one from CBS, U.S. inflation sees biggest surge in nearly 13 years. And they interview an economist who writes for the Wall Street Journal. And most people in the industry would not put quotes or use the word alleged. We just talk about inflation for this year because we're all experiencing it at the pump, at the grocery store, wherever it is that we're trying to buy protein, carbs, and sugars and fats.
Yeah, let's not scare anybody, so let's use alleged.
Alleged, yeah, as if it's not happening. So that next article discusses an inflation rate of also close to 5%, the largest surge in nearly 13 years. So back when the government is talking about stimulus packages, we're gonna send this money out there. I think some people could have seen that doing so would increase grub productivity that would chew away at the roots of our beautiful lawns.
Yeah, as an example, talking to a business just yesterday who said that he would love to grow his business, love to. And actually it was a gal in this case. I was talking to her and she said that she was trying to hire on this person, right? And the person told her, I mean, straight out told her, I'd love to come on board, I'd love to work for you, but my disability hasn't run out yet. The money that the government's paying me hasn't stopped yet, right? And so this money that the government's paying because of COVID is more than, and I think we've all heard this, is more than what they would get paid if they had worked. And so she's getting paid more.
Last week?
Oh yeah, this was yesterday. Yeah. And so she's getting paid more than they would be able to pay her if she had come on board. And so she said, just wait until the government stops paying me all this money, and then I'll come on board.
I'll go back to
right?
work.
And so big consequence to all this government oversight.
Another industry that I'm involved in is auto repair, and people still need tires on their cars. They still need new parts, and they need that repair work done. Businesses still need, in fact, have you seen just local news in our little town? Our poor little Taco Bell down the street has been flooding Facebook with these requests to please be patient with us. We don't have enough lettuce, because their supply chain, their regular supply chain, has been affected to the point where they cannot get lettuce. And so they're looking at local farmers, and luckily we're in an agricultural area, but also they're going to the local grocery stores. But if Taco Bell goes and buys all the lettuce from the local grocery store, then there's no lettuce left for the folks in town who want to make tacos at home, right? So it's impacting everything. I think that some businesses are trying to pay their workers more in order to get them to come back, maybe to offset or to counterbalance the conversation that gal had. And to that point, did you notice all the articles about Chipotle?
I have not seen that one.
Okay. Chipotle, in some circles, was hailed as benefiting the average worker, if you will, because they're increasing their wages to 15% to meet that 15% minimum. And then many articles highlighted that they were also increasing their cost of all the food that on their menu by an average of 4%, I think it was, in order to cover the higher wages that they're paying to their workers. Okay, now that's how it works. I understand that. Everybody understands that.
Basic economics.
Yeah, we cannot pay workers more without increasing. But if that worker who's earning $15 an hour at Chipotle then has to go and spend their money other places where those other prices for their various goods and services that they need are being increased by 4%, it might not be too long before the extra wage that they're getting is being absorbed by the cost of everything they're spending their money on, right?
Right.
So these changes just don't last in the long run, but it's the things that people don't see. They see $15 an hour. They don't see the direct correlation to increased goods and services in the market as well.
Yeah, we see a lot of demand out there for all these benefits and different things. Yeah. What people don't see is how that's going to affect everything else, right? Make it harder in so many other ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more of this. Unfortunately, with everything going on, I see less stability in our economy in the future. We're a huge economy, and luckily we rely on an awful lot. Our economy is not reliant upon one particular good we sell to the world or one particular service. But there's enough going on, I think, that will be less stable in the future. I think the stock market overall is going to be less stable in the future. And I worry about it a little bit. I worry about it just enough to make sure that we save money. And I worry about it enough to make sure that where I save my money is someplace that I control, that I manage. I teach people the same thing. And this, if we go back to what the pandemic has taught us, everybody's talking about that. There's so many lessons to pull out of that. And one of those lessons is making sure that you have access to your money when the time hits. You're not in a position that these other people are in, realizing that they have to wait years for the company's match to become theirs. Now it's the company's match, but it's not spelled out that way. It's not clear. They think it's their money. Yeah. And they have to wait a long time for it to be their money in some cases. Good topic. I'm glad you shared that story. I think it tied in really well with some of the things I was thinking about this last week.
Yeah, and I think that, going back to the whole, choosing the right product for the right time and season, right? Because if you choose the wrong product, it could be totally ineffective. And I'm not saying that there's only one product, but what I am saying is that it's really important to recognize that there are ways that we can prepare. So
Sure.
I think bringing everything together now, looking at where things have been, the economy, this whole, trying to prepare for the future, trying to get, take care of those unseen grubs, bring it all together now. How can we choose the right product for the future situations that are unseen, right? That we're not aware of yet. The future COVIDs that might be 10 times worse, or
Sure.
whatever
Sure.
the case might be. But it's really important. I think that we nobody likes to think about it. We don't like to think about what's going to happen in the future. But it's really important that we make sure that we have the right product, the right what's the word I'm looking for? Strategy. The right strategy in place. So that in the future we're prepared for that zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? And so many products on the initial label advertise that they're going to do what you're looking for, and when you get right down into it and see how it's constructed, what it's made of, what it's really made of, then you can learn whether or not it's going to do what you want it to do, and then applying it at the right time, I think is the next thing to do, right?
Yeah, and that's, we talk to people all the time, and you've mentioned that you've talked to a number of people that, where you've said, man, if I could have only talked to you 10 years ago or
Absolutely.
5 years ago, this would have been a whole different scenario.
Yep.
Totally, much happier ending to this
Yep.
story, right?
Yep.
And that's what we, the thing that I like about what we do is that we work with guarantees. We don't work with, this might happen.
Yeah.
This is, this could be your scenario years from now. We work with products that are guaranteed to have the right, the outcome. So when we build somebody's scenario out and the strategy that we would then recommend to, prepare for certain scenarios, we feel that it's very important to make sure that, when we look at that future scenario, we know that, okay, this is where it's going to go. This is the direct outcome of these choices that we're making now. It's not just a best guess.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And to just piggyback on that, 2 or 3 days ago, one of my clients has been a client for a year and a half or so, and he's still getting used to the way this product works and what it can do for him. And he looks at me and says, it just dawned on me the other day that this is kind of like a guaranteed savings account, where as long as I put this much into it every year, every month, however I do it, but as long as I put this much into it, then even if I don't reach my goal, even if I die partway through, my family gets all that money that I would have saved if I had saved until I was 121 years old. This is a guaranteed savings account. My family gets all that. And I said, yeah, the best part is that you have access to it, for one, and then for two, most of us don't live to be 121 years old. On average, let's say we make it to 85 or something, right? But at 85 years old, our family gets all the money we would have had if we had saved until we were 121, right? Okay, so that means that each generation is fast forwarding 40 years of savings, 35 to 40 years of savings if we pass away between 80 and 85. We're taking 40 years of accumulated savings, 40 years of interest, and paying it out early to a family, and then they get to do that generation after generation after generation. It's no wonder that families who do this over generations have tremendous amounts of wealth that they access, they control. When the pandemic hits, COVID-19, COVID-20, COVID-25, whatever it is, zombie apocalypse, they're going to be fine.
And we were talking earlier about, and this is something that you were explaining about the Rockefellers, and we probably don't have time for that now, but maybe that's something we should bring up.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's interesting insights.
Rags to riches in 3 generations, or rags to riches to rags in 3 generations, or rags to riches into perpetuity.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my mentor's colleague just wrote a book. Kim Butler just wrote a new book entitled Generational. Y'all can look it up, but I forgot the title. generational wealth management or something. Sorry, Kim, I'll get it right next time. Anyway, that's what we got. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you again. Common Sense Conversations. I'm Eric.
I'm Matt. See ya.
See ya.